On this video, we are going to be discussing the surrender experiment. It's going to be an overview, a review of it, and I'm also going to share with you a little bit about my process and actually listening to the audiobook, where I get the audiobook. It's kind of a cool, unique hack that I have and how to actually retain the information a lot better. So if you're down with that, make sure and subscribe to the channel. We're going to be coming out with a lot more book reviews here. My name is Nico Rapkalis, and if you want a part 2 or you have any suggestions on the next book, let me know. But let's dive in to this particular book, Michael A. Singer, The Surrender Experiment. So this is actually Michael A. Singer's second book. The first book is The Untethered Soul. And if you guys would like me to do a review on that book, let me know down in the comments. But it's interesting because I actually perceive that this one is the first book that I would read. And I believe that's how I actually did. I read this one first, and then I got into Untethered Soul. And so that's why I figured I would make this video in that order as well. Okay? But really what happened in this book is it's just a biopic. Okay? It's a biography of Michael Singer and his journey through letting go. You know, he talks about in the beginning stages of the book of we have that voice in our head, right? We have that voice in our head that just is yapping. It's yapping. It's yapping. It's yapping. It's given all its preferences. It's bringing anxiety and depression and, you know, constantly keeping you just all over the place and scattered, right? And there's actually a lot of science behind this, a lot of neuroscience behind all this, and talking about how that has a lot to do with our brain waves. And I'll get into that here at the, towards the end of this video, as I want to share a little bit of my breakdowns and what I took from this book. And that's really what I like to do on these particular book reviews, is that I share like what I got out of it and how I can apply it, and therefore how you can apply it as well, because I think it's so important to take the stuff that's in these books and apply it to our lives. Okay. But anyways, the biography of Michael A. Singer, and I have this little peso in here because I took this down when I went down to Tulum for a couple weeks. It was a nice little spiritual reset for myself. But the whole gist of this book is that is Michael just continued to let go and surrender to life. And so he was down in Florida. He was going to school. He was going to college. And one day he just kind of had this, he was in the midst of a conversation, and it was almost the blank spot in the conversation, the pause when no one was talking. And he just realized that something was there, and he was again noticing that voice in his head. And so he just started realizing that there was this different way to living and really surrendering and letting go and being present to the moment and getting into meditation. That's really what he delved deep into, was meditation. He would just go out into the wilderness down in Florida and he would meditate for long periods of time. And every time he'd do it, he's like, I just want to get back there. He would meditate, go live his life, but then he just had this inkling to actually go back and just meditate all the time. And so what ended up started happening, he was on this land, and then, it was a really interesting situation with his love life, as well as because like it was just continuing to kind of cycle through. And then he was living at this place, and then some people wanted to come live there, and eventually it turned into a retreat center. And then he started doing construction just because people asked him to do it. Then he turned it into a construction company. And to be honest, like when I first heard about this book, I wasn't like super excited about it. And this was a period in my life that I wasn't real spiritual, if you will. But my friend, I was in a mastermind that told me that this is a really strong book. And so I came in very skeptical, if you will. And I just thought it was going to be this woo-woo book, and it was just going to be this guy talking about how he meditated all the time and nothing else really amounted. But what's interesting is that not only did he just continue to meditate, but it served him in the physical realm as well, where he would just continue to just get wild experiences of making money. And he would even say, like, I don't want your money, but he would, like, people would just give him the money. And it was so interesting how he just continued to let go and to meditate and surrender to life and what life had to offer him. And, as I was reading it, I really kind of felt that it was almost kind of like him being a doormat, if you will. And it was like he had no like strong direction. He wasn't going after anything. But it was crazy because, through a series of events, he and a co-founder started a company called medical, it was a second word, but I forget what it's called now, but it might come to me. But eventually that company that they started was bought out by WebMD for like $5 billion. And then he just obviously became very rich and wealthy from that. And then by the end of the book, I believe he was on this private jet and meditating, from everything that I recall. So that's kind of like the gist of the story. And I think this is really profound to listen to, whether you're listening to audiobook or reading it or doing a combination of both, which is what I recommend. And I'll share with you exactly what that's all about here in a second. But I want to kind of just give you my take on this book and really what I pulled from this book and how it can apply to you. And I want to give 3 specific things. Okay. So the first one is to be mindful. Okay. To be mindful. Now, that's exactly what happened. Or I should say awareness and mindfulness. Okay. You're just aware of what's going on more. And that's something that has definitely served me in my life, is just becoming much more aware of what's going on in the world and just in my thoughts and my everything, in my reality. And the more you're aware of, you can kind of take a step back. And then on top of that, I strongly recommend, and this is something that helps me a ton. And it's, whenever I get back to this, whenever I fall off of not being mindful, but then I come back to being mindful, it makes profound shifts in my life. And that is just being present all through the day. Because, a lot of people take this whole concept and say like, oh, I just have to meditate. And the places that I've gotten in trouble with meditation is thinking that it's separate from the rest of my life. But I know that for me, it's been really, really profound to meditate, yes, but take that meditation practice and apply it to the rest of my life. So all throughout the day, I'm taking big, deep breaths. And that brings me into point number 2, is I want to talk about really like the neuroscience behind all of this. So they talk about it as when we were young. Okay, we were in theta brainwaves, that's what it's called. Okay, theta brainwaves, and they kind of go like this. They're like kind of just ocean waves out in the middle of the ocean. As opposed to beta brainwaves is when we, get past the age of about 12, we start getting in more beta brainwaves, where the water's choppy, if you will. The water's choppy, and so that's what brings a lot of the stress, the anxiety, the negative worrying thoughts, and that's why we get so stressed out. But what happens is when we meditate and we slow down, and we, whether we do some breath work or some yoga, whatever it is that helps you, it actually slows down the brainwaves. And also another little hack that I've discovered is that when you actually focus on a single point that you're just looking out, as I'm looking at this camera, just very directly, like looking at it, not moving my gaze to the left or to the right or the up or down. When my eyes are fixated on one point, that simply slows down my brainwaves, right? And so the more that you can implement that into the rest of your day, it's going to be profound, and your nervous system is calmed down. You can probably even sense it within myself, and you might be noticing it in yourself as well, as I'm talking and just being very focused and I'm starting to slow down, and you might be noticing yourself slowing down. Your nervous system is regulating. You can feel that. Maybe you even came into this book or this video a little anxious, but now you're starting to slow down. The more that you can slow down and make that a practice throughout your day, and just being mindful on top of your meditations, the more powerful you are, the more present, and that's where you actually create from. So that's point number 2. And point number 3 is just really accepting all. It was interesting as I was telling you about how I kind of perceived Michael as kind of a doormat for a lot of this book. And he just kind of like, oh, this person said, I want to do this. And this person said, I want to do this. And one of his partners was like this, and I want to do this. And it just seemed like he was just kind of like following, which is more of a feminine quality, a feminine energetic quality. But what I realized is that when you accept it, you just trust exactly the way that life is unfolding, when you don't have resistance, that's when life just seems to flow easier, right? It flows easier. And I know for me, this has been a work in progress. And historically speaking, I have not always been the best at just accepting what is. But I always know that I can just accept, like, if it's not this, it's something better. I think that's one of the most powerful quotes. If it's not this, it's something better. And the more that you can trust and just let go and surrender, the more that you can actually like appreciate life, and the more the gratitude you have for life. And that's what we do all the time inside of our community. We're always talking about our intentions and our gratitude, and that's what we do with our Vision Espresso. I'm not sure if you've heard about it or not, but we do intention setting right at the beginning, and then we share gratitude. And when you just do that on a consistent basis, you're able to surrender to the moment more, and you can just appreciate what you have. And then even like some of the things that I've learned along the way is a gratitude rampage, or appreciation rampage as they call it in some of the books. But it's basically just continuing to appreciate, and finding appreciation in everything, right? There's something you can appreciate about everything. Obviously you can appreciate, you can go the opposite way and not appreciate anything, but the more that you appreciate, the more you're attracting that in. And so it's just like, if it's not this, it's something better. If it's not this, it's something better. If it's not this, it's something better. So that's really what was instilled in me within this book, and hopefully that kind of gave you a little bit of an insight to this beauty. And I'd strongly recommend it. So as mentioned in the beginning, what I always like doing is, obviously I have the physical copy, but I like listening to the audiobook as well at the same time, because it actually helps me with retention. So what you can do now, I'm not sure if you knew this, but I just figured it out recently, that you can actually go into Spotify, and as long as you have a premium account, which I do, and I know like most of my friends and everybody I know does, because they like to listen to music on there, but you actually have audiobooks on there as well. So it's on there and you can go listen to it while you get the book. So that's what I strongly recommend. As mentioned, we have a community where we talk a lot about spirituality. We talk a lot about kind of the woo and do model is what we talk about. It's the spirituality, it's the mindset, it's the energetics, but also the strategy, and really like how to, what we call magnetically manifest. So if you'd like to join a community of hundreds of people, soon to be thousands of people that are just on their path, and a lot of these people have the Vision Espresso, as I mentioned before. It's a custom audio from your future self, and it's really cool. We help you craft your vision, and then we put together this beautiful 5-minute audio that's based on your vision, and it's in your voice. It's literally one of the most powerful personal development, spiritual, and manifestation tools there is, because the more that you can just trust, you get that, you listen to it, and then you just trust it's happening, and you let go and you surrender, it does wonders. So we've had a lot of great success stories with our clients, and you can learn more about that all in the links down in the description. But it's a really powerful tool. We've been working on it for a few years. But thank you for watching this video. I truly appreciate your time. Hopefully that gave you some value. Let me know like what was one of the biggest takeaways, whether that was point 1, 2, or 3, or whether it was just like something that you perceived from his story. His story is really inspiring. So I strongly recommend that you pick this up, whether you go listen to it, you read it, you do a combination of both, but it'll just give you some really good perspective on what it really means to surrender. And I think stories really just tell us that. So again, make sure and subscribe. Let us know what book you would like us to review next. If you would like to us to review Untethered Soul, just let us know down in the comments. And then make sure and also go check the last review that I did, is Think and Grow Rich, one of my favorite books of all time. I think it kind of marries the woo and the do very perfectly. And so go check that out. We did a full breakdown of it, and that was part 1. So go check that out right now. Links down here, or should be right here. So thanks for watching the video, and we'll see you on the next one.